13 News at noon. Let's turn things over to Russell Rhodes. He's filling in for Kathy today. Russell?
Hey, Denise, thanks a lot. In today's job market, if you have a college degree, chances are you're going to make more money, have a more secure future. But how? Your parents didn't go to college, your grandparents didn't go. How are you supposed to figure out how to do it, how to apply, when to apply, how to pay for it, what school to choose? The questions go on and on. It's complicated, it's complex. But coming up next, we've got some answers for you. We'll tell you about a great organization that is here to walk you through these steps. Know how to go to college right after the break. Hello, everyone. Getting into college may be your lifelong dream, or maybe it's a newly acquired one, or maybe you just want a better life for your child. He's smart, wants the continuous education, but you've got no idea where to start because you didn't go either. It's an intimidating process, and it's not easy. It's complex, it's got deadlines. There are also a lot of misinformation out there about it. What classes do you need to take in high school? Honors classes versus the standard? How does the extracurricular play a part? How do you figure out what schools to apply to? Never mind how to pay for it. Lots of questions. But there is a group called KnowHow2GO. They got experts in every aspect of the process. They're here and they can help you. We've got Gloriana Rhodes. He's an enrollment development coordinator and a great last name. Vivian Olive is a bilingual guidance counselor. Damian Lovett is with USF Financial Aid. And Anke Pisano is the project coordinator with KnowHow2GO Tampa Bay. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it very much. Let's start with you. Let's give an overview of the program, what it's all about, and then we'll jump off from there.
KnowHow2GO is a national campaign that started early last year, and it is sponsored by the Lumina Foundation for Education, the American Council on Education, and the Ad Council. And what it does is it addresses research findings that have found that 90% of young adults expect to go to college, but they just don't have a plan to get there. And we have simplified this process into 4 easy steps for all kids to follow. The first one is find someone to help. We recognize that a lot of these students are the first in their family to attend college. So we urge them to find a mentor. Tell all of your teachers you're interested in going to college. Tell your coach. Tell the pastor at your church, anyone involved with your life that you are interested in going to college, because we feel that the mentorship component is vital to them getting there. The second step is push yourself. And we tell students all the time, enroll for dual enrollment classes, take advanced placement classes when you're in high school. Do not be afraid of the tough classes, because colleges look at your transcript, and sometimes it's better to have a B in a very difficult course than an A in a regular course. Of course, preparing themselves for the SAT and ACT, which most colleges and universities require for college admissions. The third step is find the right fit. We encourage students to visit college campuses that they're interested in. There are a lot of students who think that they've found the right school for them, but we ask them if they've visited the campus, and they say no. They've never visited any campus. They need to do their research. Do they want to stay local? What is the cost involved? What is the size of the school? What are the academic programs they offer? And are they aligned with your long-term plans? Also, the final step is put your hands on some cash. And that entails financial aid. There's a lot of families out there that are struggling, and they want their child to go to college, but they think, you know, I'm low income, there's no way we're going to be able to afford the rising cost of a higher education. And there are federal grants out there available, and there are private scholarships that these students can apply for.
You told me earlier that that is probably the biggest hurdle that a student thinks they have is the money aspect. And Damien, I want to get to you about that in a few minutes, because I want to devote a lot of our effort to that today. Okay, so who do we find is most, who are these kids? These are kids that have not really been, they don't have any mentors that have helped them get to this point, have they?
Well, what we find is that when you're dealing in first generation and low-income families, and a lot of our newly arrived immigrants, refugees, etc., they're unfamiliar just generally with our regular education system, let alone colleges, and how to enter and how to pay and what you need to do. And the word deadline in many cultures, gone with the wind. So that kind of thing those are all things I deal with in the schools when I do workshops with students and their families. We talk about deadlines. We talk about the testing that's needed. We talk about financial aid. And most importantly, beginning in the middle school, we begin to talk about the courses that are needed. Because if you wake up and discover in your junior year, yeah, I'm going to be able to go to college, it's too late. You need to know ahead of time.
And we were talking about this earlier. There was this effort to have kids as young as middle school start looking at a major, and I know we hate it for looking at a major for college, and a lot of people were like, I don't understand why you have to think about it that early, but you all are saying it is important.
It is important because even for students who know they want to go to college and their parents are telling them throughout high school you're going to go to college, they arrive in our offices many times they're completely confused as to what they want to be when they, quote, grow up. And so there they are getting started on their career paths to study something, and they don't know what they're going to do. Some of them will just revert to whatever mom and dad want them to do,
right,
or what mom and dad do. But others who, like Vivian said, are first generation, they really don't know. So
and you told me they even sometimes ask you to tell them what to do.
What do you think I'm good at? And you know, it's like, well, we have some. We have Career Center that you can go visit and take some inventories, personality inventories and other, but it is important that a student really it's not too early for them to be starting in middle school thinking about what they want to do.
And I should point out that your website, it's a really cool website. Yeah. You ought to be congratulated on that. It's a cool website, and you break it down into ages and groups and that sort of thing. I mean, you've got the middle school, what a middle school student should be doing, and then the juniors and the seniors, and also what the adults should be doing. Exactly. And I know I'm out of your realm a little bit. You're the financial aid guy and helping with the money, but how can adults help out with this situation?
Well, from the financial perspective, it's pretty easy. Sitting down with your students and having them go through and kind of work up like a little mock-up to see what they want to do. You know, hopefully you've made some kind of a decision or you're thinking about it, and just kind of looking at the different options you have to see, well, how much is this going to cost? You know, because that's the realistic part of it for a lot of families. It can be the deal breaker. So am I going to go to school X versus school Y just because my perception is that it costs a little bit less?
Right.
You know, how do you manage that? And usually, you know, it will come down to that for a lot of families. But the key to the financial planning is just knowing what options you have and how you're going to reach them.
Because, I mean, we all know that in the state of Florida, a lot of families start planning for this when the child is born. And there are families that don't. And that's a huge issue when you start trying to look at, because it's not cheap. It's not cheap. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'd love your phone calls if you want to call us and talk to us about this. A lot to talk about today on a very cool subject, KnowHow2GO. We'll be right back.
Don't be afraid to take on the tough classes in school. You need them to prepare for college.
What a great PSA. Welcome back to Your Turn. We're talking about KnowHow2GO to college today. Sydney from Pinellas County is on the line. Hey, Sydney.
Hey, Russell. You know, if these kids want to go to college, there's lots of money. There are lots of scholarships.
All right.
But first, they need to get serious about education, like dress for success in school, turn off the telephones. You talked about that the other day. Turn off the telephones and listen to what's going on in school, and study, and get serious about it. And then, you know, the field is wide open for things to do. The kids can go to college. They can be poor and go to college.
Sydney, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. And that's why KnowHow2GO is on the show today, because every issue you brought up, I think, is something that you all will address. I'm right?
Exactly. And I want to point out that the commercial that was shown has our national website, knowhow2go.org, which is fabulous. But we also have a localized website, and that one is knowhow2gotampabay.org, and it has specific information for this region. But yes, we always tell students you have to push yourself hard. It is easier to start off high school with a solid grade point average and maintain it than it is to just totally bomb your 9th grade year and then try to raise your grade point average. So students need to understand the importance of starting off on the right foot. We totally agree.
Let's talk about money. I want to give you plenty of time to talk about that because, I mean, as the caller said, there is money out there, but you got to know how to find it. You got to know, can I get a scholarship, or can I get financial aid, or can I work my way through college? All of that stuff, right?
Right. So let me touch on the scholarships first, because what the caller mentioned was a very valid point, is that students need to be prepared to be successful throughout their high school career. And if you set up your academics to succeed that way, then chances are you're gonna have those scholarships available to you once you do graduate, because most of the scholarships are based on grade point average, test scores, things of that nature, academic success and rigor. So once the student is able to successfully do that, then they have those options available to them. But for students that, well, you know, maybe they didn't do so well, or as well as they would have liked to in high school, then they also have the opportunity to apply for financial aid from the federal government using the FAFSA form, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So for students to do that, you know, they would have to complete the form at the earliest beginning in January of their senior year. So prior to then, the students cannot complete the application. So once they complete the application, then the thing to keep in mind is to pay attention to the deadlines of whichever schools the students planning on attending. And the deadlines for financial aid are important because each school has a pot of money that they can provide to their students, especially in the public university systems. And that money is given to students that are the neediest. Okay, so this means if you are from one of the lower income areas, then you can qualify for this funding as long as you've met the deadlines for filing your FAFSA.
And you were saying a few minutes ago that you've got to stay on top of these deadlines.
Because a student can think, well, I've done the FAFSA, and that can be in itself a difficult task. The application is online, and for students who've never filled out a form at all, it can be a little bit challenging, but there are people, again, in their high schools and that will help them, their parents included, that might be able to assist them. And it is available in Spanish. But once they can get through to that, then they also have to continue to check with the financial aid office at their institution to make sure that there is always additional paperwork. The FAFSA is just the first step, really, and then they need to continue to provide additional paperwork, sometimes copies of the tax return, income tax returns. There's a process called verification that can take a little bit of time. So students want to start this early so that they're sure their money has arrived and is ready for them when they need it. Otherwise, they might have to put the money themselves up front, which for many families they can't do that, and so that means that they might not be able to start that semester. They might have to wait. So that's why getting started early is important, because there's so many other steps that they need to check into.
BJ from St. Pete's on the line. Hey, BJ.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My question is in regard to basketball scholarships. I have a son who's played since the 3rd grade and is a senior this year and wants to play basketball and go on to college to play. And how would he obtain a basketball scholarship?
He would most likely need to contact the athletic department at the institution that he would like to attend and find out what the requirements are. They will all have their own requirements, including academic perhaps. So that's something that I would recommend also, that they not just rely on athletic scholarships, that they try to acquire as many other academic scholarships as they can. One thing that happens sometimes, if a student is injured in their first year, they may lose that scholarship and have to leave the institution. It's unfortunate, but that happens.
Well, and go ahead.
Sorry. The other thing is that the NCAA has its own set of rules and its own set of subjects in high school that they recognized as subjects for receiving an athletic scholarship. The person that normally deals with athletic scholarships, at least in Hillsborough County, is usually an assistant principal or an administrator at the school who is the one who coordinates all of the athletics. Also, the coach of the sport is a good source of information. This is part of talk to the right people. He needs to talk to his coach. His mother should probably make an appointment with a coach and see what different steps they should pursue.
We got to take a break, but I think that the other advice you would probably want to give is don't count on that being your only source.
Oh yes, always.
Source
Always.
of income to get through college. All right, we're going to take a break. Know How to Go to College continues.
For health news and information.
There's some myths right there. Let's cover them. You need to decide on a career before you choose a college, yes or no?
Do we want us?
Yeah, jump in. You should.
No, you don't have to decide, but you should have some idea. Generally, your first 2 years are in what we call a core curriculum, which every student would take. And during that time, you could sort of finalize your ideas so that when you hit possibly the second semester of your sophomore year, you're beginning to go into your major area.
Okay. Let's go to the second one. A lot of extracurricular activities will make up for poor grades.
No, never.
All right. Only the very best students receive financial aid.
No.
The big no-no.
That's one of my favorites, but no, that is not true.
You wanted to say something about parents. Don't wait till the last minute to apply for it.
Yes, when you're applying for the FAFSA form in the final semester of your student's senior year, one of the things to keep in mind is that the FAFSA form uses your tax information for the calendar year, tax year that just ended. So for instance, for all of the students that are enrolling right now, they're using their information from their 2007 tax returns. Once the next school year comes around, you can use the information from the 2008. But since most parents don't file their tax returns until April 15th, then they assume, well, I can't do the FAFSA because I haven't completed my tax returns. That's not true. Okay. You can use the income information from the prior year to estimate the income information to put on the FAFSA. But in addition to that, there is also a tool on the FAFSA website, fafsa.ed.gov, that has a forecaster called FAFSA Forecaster that students and parents can plug in their information as of right now and get a pretty good picture of what their contributions will look like.
Find the right fit. What do you mean by that?
Finances is important, and so students have to look at the reality of, am I going to go to university or should I consider community college? And this year, there's been a lot of students that, even though they had the grades and they had the bright futures and they had the test scores, there was no room for them at the universities. And so they're coming now to the community colleges, to HCC, and they are realizing that we have a lot to offer that they hadn't considered before. So that's a good thing. But the other thing to consider is, right now we're $78.24 per credit hour in state versus $130 USF, and so that's a considerable savings.
Fantasy versus dream.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Fantasy versus dream is a concept that I use when I'm working with parents and students. A fantasy, we know, is the world of make-believe. A dream has a basis in reality, and it's something we aspire to. For many families, these first-generation families who don't have a college-going culture, they look at college as a fantasy that will never be for them. I feel it's my job to bring them from fantasy to a dream and let them know, yes, there is money. Yes, there is help. Yes, you can, by taking the right courses, making the plan, seeing your plan through, planning ahead financially, and you can do it. So that's it.
Something she alluded to, and I think it's important to point out, because we've talked about starting this process earlier and starting it in middle school and that sort of thing, and taking some of the harder subjects and maybe getting a B in them as opposed to an A. Some of the requirements that colleges have now, you really have to take some very difficult courses in high school to get into some of these colleges, right?
Right. The admission criteria nationwide is increasing, and so students need to hit the ground running and do the best they can, push themselves hard while they're in school. One thing I wanted to add is if they go on our website and they click on Find Help Near You, they can find people in their community. We have youth serving agencies in Hillsborough County that want to help these students go to college. We have people in the school district, HCC, and USF as well, and we want these students to achieve their dream and not live in a fantasy.
We've got time for a couple more phone calls. John from Lakeland. Hey, John.
Good morning. I was one of the students that came from a rather meager background and never in my wildest dreams figured I'd be able to afford college.
Right.
And as a sophomore, I was in on a lecture on a college night in my high school, and the lecturer from the Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn basically said, if money is your only problem for going to college, you don't have a problem. That if you kept your grades up, you'd be able to get all the scholarships and loans you needed. And I was able to take that concept and run with it, and I got a degree in engineering. And they still, in my opinion, do not get the word out to the kids that don't have a lot of financial resources that there is money available.
Thank you for calling. Did you guys pay him to call in here today? No. That was perfect for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was perfect. Hey, Terry from Palmetto, we don't have a lot of time left. Ask it fast, okay?
Okay, I'll do it quick, Mr.
Okay. Oh. Go ahead, ask it.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead, Terry.
I beg your pardon. One thing I think a big step is being missed here. Directly from high school into the military will pay for your education. That's how I got mine, and it costs nothing, and the military will figure out what your best occupation is going to be.
Well, you know what, Terry, thanks for calling. And you know what? It is an option for a lot of people. If they don't know what they want to do yet, join the military.
Exactly.
And
as Gloriana says, it's part of find the right fit.
Absolutely.
Because it directly to college out of high school isn't for everyone.
right. All right. We're going to take a break. We'll wrap things up in just a second. Stay with us.
I just want to go back.
Okay, for more information, you can log on to KnowHow2GO.org, or here's their phone number. It's 800-433-3243. I want to thank all of you for being here today. You brought up an interesting point. I want to say it right before we go. Just because you think a private college is too expensive, they got money too to give away sometimes, right? So look into a private college. That's all for your turn today. We do thank you for joining us. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have you heard